The letter that arrived after my daughter took her own life following her funeral read,
"If you're reading this, Mom, it means I'm no longer in this world."
I continued reading her message in a daze, unable to comprehend. Learning that my beloved daughter had ended her life at the age of 27 left me stunned. The pain was overwhelming, and I even considered following her. But the letter's final words were chilling.
"Mom, please seek revenge on my behalf."
Terrified, I rushed to the police. I'm Mary, 63 years old. Thanks to my kind husband, I've led a happy life. Our pride and joy is our daughter Vivi, who is turning 27. She's beautiful and compassionate. Vivi found success as a children's book author and married Michael, the son of a company president, when she was 25. Welcomed warmly by her gentle in-laws, I believed she was living a blissful life with her daughter Mia. Never did I imagine that I'd say goodbye to our daughter so soon. Vivi was our precious gift, born when my husband and I were 34 and struggling to have children. One unforgettable memory from her childhood is when she was 4 years old.
Mom, I want to play the violet flower tug of war.
Oh, that's a nostalgic game. In a picture book read by the kindergarten teacher, there was a scene where children played tug-of-war with violet flowers. In this game, you intertwine violet stems and pull against each other. I gathered plenty of violets from the riverbank nearby and played with my daughter in the garden. Vivi exclaimed,
Violets are cute. These are my flowers.
Her beaming smile remains etched in my mind. As she grew up, she was kind-hearted and beloved by neighborhood kids and classmates alike. In college, her hobby of creating picture books earned her awards, and she became a successful author. Her wedding was filled with blessings, and she and Michael welcomed their daughter Mia into the world. Truly, those were days of smooth sailing. Looking back, it was about a year ago, shortly after Mia was born and Vivi's father-in-law passed away, that her seemingly idyllic life began to unravel. Michael, who had been the vice president at the company, took over as president. Worried about Karen, Vivi's mother-in-law who would be living alone, Vivi and her husband decided to live with her at Karen's house. Around that time, I noticed something subtly off about Vivi. Each time we met, she appeared thinner, her complexion paler. It was about 6 months ago when Vivi visited our house. Why did you come alone? How's Mia? I asked. She averted her eyes and replied sadly,
Karen won't let Mia out of her sight. She wants me to focus on household chores since she's watching Mia.
I protested. But, don't you want Mia close to you? She sighed.
I do, but I think Karen is infatuated with Mia.
According to Vivi, Michael was swamped with work and couldn't lend a listening ear. I felt Vivi's emotions and became disheartened.
Talking to Mom about my complaints made me feel better.
However, it seemed unusual for patient Vivi to be troubled. I suggested, if it's difficult, why not come home for a while? She hesitated, then,
Maybe, but I'll endure a bit longer. Once Michael's work settles down, he'll listen, I believe.
With a heavy heart, she left. And that was the last time I saw my daughter. I'll forever regret not holding her back more strongly during that visit from Vivi. Afterward, despite my repeated attempts to call my daughter's cell phone, I couldn't get through. Unable to bear the uncertainty, my husband and I visited Vivi's home. However, Karen turned us away with a curt,
She's not here.
leaving us in the dark about Vivi's well-being. Desperate, I contacted Michael, but his response was far from comforting.
Family dynamics are fine. Besides, even if she's your only daughter, meddling in the affairs of a married child is overly protective, don't you think?
His lack of understanding left me disappointed. As I worried about Vivi, time slipped away, and there was nothing more I could do. Then, several months later, Michael called out of the blue.
Please stay calm.
He began.
Vivi has taken her own life.
The unbelievable words left me in shock, and the world seemed to darken before my eyes. What? No way. I stammered, my trembling hands clutching the phone. According to Michael, Vivi had obtained poison online and left a farewell note on her computer.
Life is too painful. I'm going to the other side.
When he arrived home early one day, he found Vivi collapsed. Karen and Mia were out at the time. Despite Michael's efforts, Vivi was already cold, lifeless. An ambulance was called, but at the hospital, they confirmed her passing, and she was taken to the mortuary without any chance of treatment. I was deeply shocked. If Vivi was suffering so much, why didn't she confide in me? And the fact that Vivi, who cared so much for Mia, took her own life. I simply couldn't believe it. My husband and I rushed to the hospital, where we found Vivi lying there, unrecognizable. In a panic, I clung to my daughter, pleading, "No, Vivi. Please open your eyes." But no matter how much I called out, she remained silent. My husband's shoulders shook alongside mine. It felt like a nightmare, our precious treasure gone. The police questioned my son-in-law, who answered solemnly with a pale face. Despite investigating for any signs of foul play, Vivi's sudden passing yielded no suspicious clues. 4 days later, we attended her funeral, supported by my husband. At that moment, I suddenly noticed the 1-year-old Mia, whom Karen was holding. She seems a bit pale, I thought. Concerned, I approached to observe my granddaughter. But Karen sharply rebuffed me, saying,
"What are you doing? Don't touch her without permission."
Helplessly, I withdrew my hand. It's heartbreaking that this poor little one lost her mother at just 1 year old, and I can't even hold her. As I observed my distressed daughter, I blamed myself for not being able to provide enough support. Later, my son-in-law offered to dispose of Vivi's belongings, but at that point, nothing mattered. All I wanted was my daughter's life. After the funeral, I returned home and collapsed, utterly drained of energy. A week after the funeral, my daughter's childhood friend Daisy visited our home. Astonishingly, she said, "I have a letter from Vivi." Apparently, after Vivi's passing, an envelope arrived addressed to Daisy, containing a note and a letter for me. The note read,
I'm sorry for the sudden request, but only Daisy can handle this.
And then Vivi's message.
If anything happens to me, please deliver this letter to my mom. Keep it private.
Trembling, I accepted the envelope. My daughter, who had left without a word, had actually left a proper farewell. It was both heartwarming and heartbreaking, a mix of complex emotions, as I unfolded the neatly folded stationery. There, her familiar handwriting filled the page. The opening lines of the letter.
If you're reading this, Mom, it means I'm no longer in this world.
Made my vision blur with tears. However, as I continued reading, I was struck by a shock akin to being hit with a hammer. What does this mean? The letter revealed the tragic circumstances my daughter faced, imploring me to seek revenge on her behalf. The chilling contents froze my spine, and I considered rushing to the police. Yet, in the next moment, I hesitated. With no evidence beyond this letter, I knew the police wouldn't take it seriously. For the first time in my life, an intense anger surged within me. I won't let this go unpunished. I resolved to gather proof and take matters into my own hands. The next day, my husband and I headed to Karen's house. We rang the intercom, and the front door swung open when we announced our names. There stood my disheveled, steely-eyed Karen, glaring at us like a guardian deity.
Are you two strangers now? What business do you have?
She snapped. We've come to collect Vivi's belongings. I replied.
Humph. I was thinking of disposing of them like trash. Do as you please.
Her cold words cut through the air. But then, the piercing cries of a baby reached us. We hurried toward the living room, where a shocking scene unfolded. Little Mia sat on the cluttered floor, thin and dirty, wailing. An empty milk bottle lay nearby, and her swollen diaper revealed neglect. I scooped up my grandchild. What's going on? Why won't you care for this child? She's just a 1-year-old. Karen retorted.
Why should I bother with that woman's child? I've had enough.
You say that, but you were eager to take Mia away from Vivi and keep her all to yourself. I shot back, remembering Vivi's lonely expression when she returned home. Karen smirked, her lips curving into a mocking smile.
I couldn't leave that incompetent daughter-in-law in charge. But this child? She doesn't even warm up to me. I can't find her cute anymore.
Beside Karen, who continued to offer baseless excuses, I attended to Mia, changing her diapers, feeding her milk, and caring for her. Karen's angry voice persisted.
Even though she's completely useless, she went to such embarrassing lengths, tarnishing our reputation. It's all because of her upbringing.
As she spoke, I clenched my lips, resisting the urge to retort. I wondered if Vivi had endured this constant berating. Poor Vivi. I silently endured, knowing there was a reason. Unbeknownst to Karen, my husband had been investigating Vivi's belongings. His anger simmered beneath the surface. Vivi's possessions lay haphazardly under the dimly lit staircase down the hallway. There, a thin mattress and tattered blanket hinted at what had been Vivi's room during her lifetime. She hadn't even been given a proper space. Instead, she slept in this dismal corner. My husband's fists trembled with emotion. If only he knew the truth about our daughter's suffering. As the situation unfolded, Karen contacted Michael, and he returned home. His anger flared as he confronted us.
How dare you barge in like this? Take Vivi's belongings and leave.
His eyes narrowed at us, and he continued, We'll leave soon, but I have a request. Please let us take Mia. The current situation is becoming unbearable. Michael scoffed.
That crying brat? I've never found her cute. She's just like useless Vivi. Take her with you.
He grabbed my arm, intending to drag me toward the entrance while I held my grandchild in my arms. Be gentle. Mia will get scared. I protested. But Michael snapped back.
Shut up. Don't talk back to me.
Just then, my husband's voice echoed through the room.
We know you used Vivi's savings from her single days. We want it back.
He declared, holding a cardboard box containing our daughter's belongings. Michael stammered.
What? I don't know anything about that. Vivi must have used it on her own.
His face turned pale, and in that moment, my husband and I exchanged a knowing glance. We had all the evidence we needed. Vivi taking her own life is a lie. You two are responsible for her demise. I'll never forgive you. I shook off my son-in-law's grip and glared at him and Karen. Michael retorted,
What nonsense! We'd never do such a thing.
His eyes widened momentarily at my words, but seconds later, he burst into laughter. I promptly showed him Vivi's letter. It meticulously detailed the mistreatment she endured at the hands of her in-laws. Since moving in, Vivi had been deprived of her daughter, unable even to see her. She was treated like a servant, ordered to comply if she wanted to visit Mia. Her phone was confiscated, and she suffered daily abuse. Meanwhile, Michael, without defending Vivi, sided with his mother. At the time, he faced another problem. The family business was in the red. After Vivi's father-in-law passed away, leaving substantial debt, Michael became the new president. Desperate, he embezzled all of Vivi's successful children's book author savings, $450,000 for company funds. But it was futile. The business continued to struggle. Vivi's health deteriorated, and she feared for her safety. In her letter, she even suspected that Michael coveted the $300,000 life insurance policy they took out as a couple.
That's not evidence. It's Vivi's imagination.
Even when confronted with Vivi's letter and the facts, my son-in-law remained nonchalant. That's when my husband presented the evidence he found among Vivi's belongings. It included a vial containing what appeared to be poison and a baby monitor. When my husband pressed play, the video showed Karen sprinkling something into Vivi's food, a potentially lethal act. It also captured Michael verbally abusing Vivi and physically assaulting her. At the video's end, Vivi's words lingered.
I'll survive for Mia's sake, even if I have to bite the bullet. If my life is cut short, consider it stolen by my in-laws.
Her tone, as she stared into the camera, conveyed determination, not despair. Seeing this, Michael and Karen turned pale, trembling. We'll submit all of this to the police for investigation, I declared.
Stop. Hand it over.
Desperate, they tried to snatch the evidence from my husband's grasp. Stop! This entire conversation is on speakerphone through my cell phone, I shouted, causing my in-laws to recoil. As a precaution, I had contacted Daisy to monitor the situation. My phone was connected in a call, and Daisy and Vivi's childhood friends were all listening. Daisy had already reported to the police. Realizing the dire situation, Michael, sweat forming on his forehead, suddenly changed his tune.
Look, I'm sorry. I'll definitely return Vivi's savings. Please tell the police it was all a misunderstanding.
I scoffed. What? Even if you return the money, our daughter won't come back. We'll never forgive you. Karen, who had been sulking until then, tearfully pleaded.
Wait. If this continues, Mia's family will be labeled criminals. Is that okay?
Even she, in her sudden change of heart, joined the plea. Perhaps inspired by his mother's desperation, Michael collapsed to his knees beside her. For Mia's sake, her family is better off without people like you. Confess your actions honestly to the police. Shortly after, the police arrived, and Michael and Karen were escorted away in a patrol car. Afterward, the two were convicted. During police interrogations, it was revealed that they forcibly held Vivi down and coerced her to ingest poison, all in pursuit of the life insurance money. The computer purchase information and the farewell letter attributed to Vivi turned out to be Michael's fabrication. They were both held accountable for taking a life. We sought $450,000 from Vivi's savings, $30,000 in compensation, and $90,000 for Mia's. Vivi's in-laws sold their sole remaining property, a house and land, to meet these demands. Even if they step beyond prison walls, a thorny path awaits them. Meanwhile, my husband and I are raising our grandchild. Mia thrives, her plump cheeks reminiscent of Vivi. And in our garden, violets bloom abundantly. When Mia grows a little older, I plan to reminisce about our daughter while playing tug-of-war with Violet.
How did you find this story? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Until next time in our next video.